I was going to say because, but now I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
By way of introduction, we're going to be starting with 26, the bearing of the cross by Simon.
Yes, Simon of Cyrene, one of my favorite stories, but go ahead.
By way of introduction, what we're leaving is a very interesting situation. Pilate was a ruthless, cruel, bloodthirsty Roman governor. And yet, he was arguing for the life of Christ. He was trying to get him acquitted. Where the Jews, Jesus, of course, was a Jew, took the opposite. The crowds and the leaders were yelling, crucify. Isn't that an interesting trend? You know, it's a switcheroo.
But don't go too far. It is true that Pilate was arguing apparently for acquittal, but ultimately he allowed the crucifixion just to calm the crowd down. So what kind of justice is that? You know the man is innocent, but you say, oh, kill him anyway. It'll keep the crowd from
It almost makes Pilate more guilty.
That's my point. He's guilty. We say in the creed, crucified under Pontius Pilate. We underline his name every forever. We say it every week just to rub it in. Yeah.
We have a question. Does he less Pilate? Because he was in a position he has the powers to capital for capital.
Tim is answering a question. Tim, what question are you answering? We can't hear.
What power Pilate had? The Jews did not have the power to kill, execute.
At that point in time, the imperial power of Rome was absolute. And Pilate served both as judge and jury. It was nothing like our system of fair play in a court of law. He was the judge. And so he heard the evidence and he gave the answer. In this case, okay, take him off and crucify him. So it was the way it was. He had absolute power to kill Jesus.
The whole thing was unfair. The trials were unfair.
Yeah.
They didn't follow the Jewish rules. Pilate was convinced this guy, see no guilt in this man. He offered Barabbas, but surely they'll take Jesus over an unknown murderer. But they didn't.
Well, let me get to Simon. Just imagine, you've gone to Jerusalem. Notice he's from Cyrene. That's an African. Libya. But he's not in the normal way a Jew. He might be completely Jewish. We don't know. He could have traveled to Cyrene and then come back. But the point was, he was in Jerusalem for the highest holiday. This was like, I don't know, going to New York during the Christmas season. I mean, it was a big holiday event. And the whole thing got distorted by this Jesus of Nazareth being arrested and crowds yelling for his crucifixion. We have no idea why he was watching the parade, but he was. He was standing there beside the road. He might have been excited by the crowd and here's a convicted murderer. Maybe he was a believer. We don't know.
It says that he was from the country. So as you say, maybe the crowds, the noise, the shouting
was exciting.
Yeah.
People would line the road, and it was the practice that the person who was being crucified had to carry their cross. Now, it probably was not, like in many of the pictures, the entire cross. was probably just the crossbar, which would then be put in place on the already existing scaffold. But it was heavy, it was big, it was not a 2x4, it was a big block of wood. And remember, Jesus had been scourged. He had been beaten almost to death. And then they put this cross on his back. He could barely walk. Well, he had been bleeding from a number of things. So now, we've got Simon of Cyrene in the story. He's standing along the road, and suddenly Jesus falls to the ground right there in front of him. And that's where the story picks up. As they led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. It was true that if a Roman soldier told you to do something, you did it. So if Jesus could not walk any further with the cross, it would be likely that the soldier would say, you come here, pick up the cross. Now, Simon was probably terrified. First of all, he thought he was just going to watch a parade. Now he's in the parade. And what if the soldiers get confused? Who is supposed to be crucified? When carrying the cross. Yeah, I mean, I'm at risk now. I would think he was a little afraid that this was all going to turn out good. Okay, but there's something else I like to teach on here. And I don't know about this for sure. But notice Luke writes his name. And I think that's important. Why? Because Luke knew it. He wasn't just somebody in the crowd. He was Simon. Wow. Simon's Jewish. Well, it probably was Jewish, because that's why you would go to Passover in Jerusalem. No, my point is, the early church knew that name. And that's what I find significant. It's interesting. He's probably a believer in the early church. He would tell the story over and over again. We're sitting around a group of Christians just like this, and he would say, let me tell you how I met Jesus. He tells the story of being pulled into the walk to Golgotha. That was his witness. He told about the time when he had to carry the cross. Now, just a reminder, remember, we're all told that we will have to take up our cross and carry it. Simon is the only person, only Christian, who carried Christ's cross. I think that's also. You were going to say something?
There is I think it's actually right about how important Simon was to the church. How else would we know that he was from the country?
He knows the name, or knows where he's from.
And in the end of Rome, where you get all those say hi to.
Yeah.
Simon's name is not mentioned, but possibly his relative.
Okay.
And also.
Well, I just pay attention. When I see someone's name, it occurs to me that Luke or Matthew or whoever wrote the name because it was an important name to the community. They knew that name among the group. I think that's helpful for me. Okay, let's keep reading. Yeah.
I have a suggestion to hanging bag and that cross and having full of Jesus' blood on that. He didn't live with all that, so it's all over him. So he's actually like Simon, especially white blood. Yeah.
Well, this is before this picture.
No, but he's discouraged.
He's discouraged.
So when they laid that on his back, he's right, it got covered with Jesus' blood.
Yeah.
It's pretty gruesome. Yeah. Okay. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the barren women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if men do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" This is some of the strangest things.
Is that Revelation, some of that? Phil's following us, we're being punished by.
It's actually a reference to something back in the Old Testament, Hosea. But let me, because we're tight on time, let me go to that last line. I think that's the one that made me scratch my head. What is it? All right, you remember. Jesus is going to the cross. He is completely innocent, right? Without sin. He has done nothing to deserve this. And Jesus is looking at these women who are wailing and saying, "Look, this is what happens." He points to himself, he said, "When the tree is green, I'm innocent. Imagine what it's going to be like for you when judgment comes on Jerusalem, because they aren't innocent." That's what this is all about. He is not blaming those women for his death. It has nothing to do with that. He's making a Jerusalem prophecy in the middle of being crucified. He's prophesying that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. And the reference to the tree and the dry is, look, this is what happens to an innocent man. You guys are innocent. When judgment comes, it's going to be bad. And it was bad. Jerusalem is destroyed. The temple is destroyed down to the rocks. So, this is probably the Jewish idiom. Saying about the wombs and. Okay, fair enough.
It would be a point to be made about the literal taking it through. When you say taking the scripture literally, we include figures of speech like idioms,
Right.
which are not meant.
He doesn't mean that he's green.
Yeah, that's right.
He didn't have green skin tone. No, it has nothing to do with that. But the idiom is so good.
Saying.
It's a saying. But he's applying it to himself. I'm innocent and I'm being punished. Just imagine what a guilty guy is going to get. 70 years, not 70, 40 years, 40 years later.
Anyone who reasons he died for us, they believe that God's wrath is now upon him. God is angry.
Well, that's true. But you still have things happen. You're right about God's wrath is not on us. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't be hurt if there was an earthquake and this ceiling falls. We would be killed sitting there. But that doesn't mean that that's wrong. It's possible for death to come to us. That's obvious. People have died for the last few thousand years. But we die in Christ. That's different. I agree. Okay. Oops, I'm moving the wrong one. I meant to move this one. And because I need to decide when to call this off, we will actually stop short of the cross. In the next scene, Jesus is on the cross with the two other criminals. That's where we'll pick up. I apologize for the delay, Pastor Hoover.
Was the one that died saying, if you are Christ, keep yourself. Well, tell you what he was saying, because he's something the same as Christ. The other than not.
Well, okay, we can pick this up next week. The church tradition is that the two thieves are different.
Yeah.
One says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. The other one is joining in the mockery. Basically, he doesn't say, I believe you are the Christ. Because if you're the Christ, stay with both. He's making fun.
But I would do the same thing if I was on the cross and save me from this cross. I can't stand this torture.
Well, I understand that, but it depends on what's really in your heart. Are you mocking Jesus?
I wouldn't mock him.
No, that's right. So you say, save him.
Yeah. Now, by the way, Tim, I want you to do a little bit of Greek work. Something that we've all known from a long time ago, there was a sign on the cross. I learned something about Greek this week when I was preparing for this. Look at that statement. It's interesting. Remember the order. It says this is the King of the Jews. That's the English translation. But in Greek, the order of the words is important.
The King of the Jews.
Okay, so we're going to get into it that fast. I didn't know you.
One and one sign.
It's like you would say. It's like you would say, this is the King of the Jews, or the King of the Jews. This. So Pilate, even though he approved the plaque, he's joining in the mockery. This is your king, is what he's saying.
It's not only the mockery of Christ, it's all the Jews. He's saying this bloody pulp of man is good. He's the highest among you. What does that mean?
In Greek, the word that they want to emphasize in a sentence is the last word. So the way, if you actually look at the Greek, the words would not be, this is, it would be as Tim said, King of the Jews, this, or this is. Anyway, I'm going to close the share so that we can stop the video. Bill.
Class next week. What happens? Who's gotten before 23rd will be done?
Well, next week is the 20th. The week after that's the 27th. Eventually, we will finish the Gospel of Luke. Bill, do you have anything else for the wisdom of the group?
No, I think we're off to a good start on your questions. And
we'll get there. Thank you for calling in. See everybody next week. I'm going to close the meeting.
have a blessed week, and everyone be safe. And
Oh, no, wait.
next week.
Jim just reminded me. We need to say the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, we do that, and it's Grandfather's Day also. Grandparents' Day, yes.
Is it?
Yes, today is Grandparents' Day.
No, I'm supposed to have the day off. Okay, here we go. Let's close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses and forgive those who trespass against us. Sorry, folks. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I put it in front of me so I don't misspeak. I apologize to everybody. Oh, what a mess. Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off now. See you next week, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye now. How do I turn the recording off?